Hello again. Welcome back to your science lesson. Today's learning objective: to understand what friction is. What is friction? Everything would just keep slipping and falling all over the place if it wasn't for friction. Thanks to friction, this does not happen. Can you imagine a world without friction? Now let's talk more about friction. Friction is a force that is created when two surfaces move or try to move across each other. Friction is the resistance of motion when one object rubs against another. Anytime two objects rub against each other, they cause friction. When the balls are moving in this direction, the force of friction is acting in the opposite direction. The amount of friction produced during this process depends on the texture of both surfaces and the amount of contact force in pushing the two surfaces together. When you want to stop your bicycle, you press the brake and your bicycle slows down because of the friction between the brakes and the wheels. Different surfaces experience different amount of friction. An eraser on a glass top table will experience more friction than a coin, which will experience more friction than an ice cube on the same table. Why do you slip and fall when the floor has just been mopped? This is because liquid creates a barrier between the ground and your shoes and make the friction a lot less. It is because of less friction that you hear of many accidents during monsoons, during rainy seasons. Even though the friction on the brakes is still there, the brakes may be wet and the wheels are not as much contact with the ground because of the water. When you rub your hands together, the action of scraping the surface of your skin back and forth against each other causes the molecules in your skin to move a little faster. The faster the molecules move, the higher the temperature. So the friction of rubbing your hands together makes them feel warm. Let's try it out. Teacher, you may pause this video to do this activity. Now, let's learn about types of friction.
Friction can be broken down into three specific categories: sliding friction, rolling friction, and fluid friction. Sliding friction occurs when two solid surfaces slide over each other. Sledding illustrates this type of friction perfectly. When you sled down a hill covered in snow, the solid bottom of the sled slides across the solid packed snow. Another example of sliding friction is built into the word itself, a slide. When you go down a slide, the solid of your body moves across the plastic or metal material of the slide. The second type of friction is rolling friction. Rolling friction occurs when an object rolls across a surface. The opening example of a ball dropped on the ground is an example of rolling friction. A bicycle is another great example of rolling friction. Imagine you are cycling down a street. If you stop pedaling and just coast, your bicycle's wheels will eventually roll to a stop. Without more pedaling, the friction of the wheels against the ground will stop the bicycle's motion. The final type of friction is fluid friction. Fluid friction occurs when a solid object moves through a fluid or a gas. Have you ever had to walk home in a storm? The strong winds likely made it difficult for you to move forward. When you are outside in a storm, the fluid friction between you and the air is increased. A swimming pool is another great place to study fluid friction. When you are in a pool, there is constant friction between your body and the water. Because the force of the friction slows you down, you have to paddle constantly. If no friction were present, you could glide all the way across the pool with one stroke. All three types of friction act in the opposite direction of an object's motion. However, each type differs in how the friction is created.
Your task for today: is to give 3 examples on how do we use friction in our daily life. You're gonna have to record your actions and upload it in Edmodo. Here's an example on how I use friction in my daily life. Walking. It is impossible to walk on the ground without friction. Friction is what holds your shoes to the ground. Another example on how I use friction in my daily life is by cycling. Stop! No matter how fast you pedal, you're always going to need to stop, thanks to the brake that works using friction. Before I end my video, I've uploaded some reading materials in Edmodo in regards to forces and friction. You're gonna have to write 10 important information about forces, gravity, and friction. You're gonna reflect on your learning. You may reflect on what we've learned about friction, gravity, and forces. What is your aha moment? What did you find out? What did you learn? So you have 2 tasks to complete: your research skills and your reflection. That's all for now, learners. Bye!